What is a telltale sign that someone is a selfish person? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. Conversations don't feel like conversations. They are one-sided talks about what they want, their thoughts, their life, their priorities, etc. When you are able to slip a word in, your words are used as transitions in their dialogue. No matter how you format your words, they all just add to the plot of their story. What you say and what you do are pawns in their game to be manipulated in a way that belittles your experiences, actions, opinions, and choices. Number 9. They politely take any favors you do for them, but when asked if they could reciprocate once, they get defensive and/or aggressive and act like you're the selfish one for daring to expect something in return. It doesn't make you a bad person to expect reciprocation in a relationship with someone else, romantic or platonic. Relationships are give and take, and that makes them healthy. It's not entitlement to expect kindness if you give kindness. If you're the only one giving, you're being taken advantage of. As some people have pointed out, doing something kind with the expectation to gain something from it can be manipulative. I'm not talking about narcissism and manipulation. I'm talking about the natural give and take in a relationship. It is not manipulative to expect certain things out of a relationship, depending on what kind of relationship it is. The whole reason we make relationships is because they give us something, whether that be support, love, safety, or other advantages. It isn't a bad thing, it's a human thing. Typically, with give and take, if you notice a pattern of one person consistently taking without giving, the one taking is the problem, not the one giving. The kind of people who use this as a manipulation tactic aren't the ones who stick around in a relationship for years, doing favors and kind things without being asked to. They're more likely to do one favor and demand twice as much in return. Why do I know this? I had these people in my life, which is what gave me the realization I commented above. Number 8. If they always talk about themselves, sometimes, of course not always, it is not necessarily because they are selfish. I, for example, really care about the people I love. But when they tell me about something, I try to compare to something that happened to me to show them that I know their feeling. I often got flack for that, although I really tried to show that I understand them. It's an ADHD thing. It's quiet, but it's hard to just say some meaningless words like, I feel you, or that's rough, buddy. I want to convey it in a more finished form, if that makes sense. So yeah, people that talk often about themselves can be selfish, but I think it's more about if they care only about the things they are saying or if they also listen or not. Number 7. If you are in a group and there is one person that is constantly interrupting the middle of what you or anyone else is saying, generally to brag about themselves with a one-upper story, is generally a precursor to stop associating with them. I've met too many of them in my days, and they are more often than not happy to throw you under the bus whenever the opportunity arises. Reply. It's not that simple. For example, people with ADHD or autism do this to relate to others. I constantly interrupt people and tell my stories, but not because I want to be the center of attention, but because it's my way to tell people, I get you. Sometimes I catch myself and apologize, but I get that it can be annoying. Number 6. They're surprised and disgruntled when you accept what they've offered. Example, I used to be friends with someone who loved to offer stuff. I have some cute maternity clothes that would fit you. I can lend them to you if you want. I can help you rearrange your classroom. I'll come in early tomorrow. I made such a great apple pie, I can bring you a piece. These aren't things that anyone solicited. She offered them up. Yet she 100% expects that everyone will politely decline her offers. I'm a yes person. Anything you offer to me, I will happily accept. The look on her face when I would respond, that would be great, thanks, was always priceless. She never followed through with any of it, but she never stopped offering stuff. And I never stopped accepting. It was kind of hilarious. Number 5. They drive aggressively. We've all seen people weaving in and out of traffic, passing on the right, tailgating, etc. It's pretty selfish to create dangerous situations for others' drivers. Reply. This one. I mentally write people off if they drive like an I don't care where they need to be. Even if your kid is getting born, be late for the birth because you drive safe rather than never arrive because you're a mangled mess in what's left of your crashed car. So, I have a very weird story about one time when rushing like a silly bugger saved a life. My dad, for the birth of his first kid, decided to speed and play silly bastards with red lights. He ended up T-boning another car, flipping it totally on its side. Dad at the time was a young businessman in the 80s, so of course he drove a Porsche like a Pratt, and despite his story of trying to reach his firstborn, coppers didn't believe him. Which is fair, he looked like some head speeding about in his flash car, not a young father-to-be. Other driver is raging and ranting. Cops arrive and looking back, and there's a body in the back seat, a woman. So Dad thought he'd killed a woman. Dad is in cuffs, driver of other car is raging like crazy but hadn't mentioned this poor woman, was just raging about the car. The fact the other guy hadn't mentioned his passenger even being in the car is a key detail. So as my dad is thinking, I've killed someone, I am going to prison, and I deserve it. Which is when this lady wakes up and climbs out of the car, murder in her eyes. The cops actually gave me Dad a look like, you got this coming, and stood back to give Sis a clear run at beating the out of him. Dad accepted it, closed his eyes like she can beat me as long as she's not dead, because rather than he's killed her. So she starts charging towards the driver of her own car. And she battered the shit out of him. Before cops pulled her off, she broke the dude's nose, bounced his head off the police car, off the ground. She was stomping with her heeled boots on his ribs and groin when cops got in grip of her. Good lass. Come to learn, right? Okay. The other driver had that day got out of prison for driving charges. He was not meant to be driving, had no license, and was not meant to be drinking. So of course he got out and drove his GF to the pub, where he got hammered, beat the shit out of this poor woman, and threw her mostly unconscious into the back of the car, thinking she was dead, fully planning, right, to throw her body in the local rivers. Till my dad came along and legitimately saved her life. When they pulled her off her abuser, the woman asked who the driver who hit them was, saw my dad, and hugged him, sobbing, "Thank you. Thank you." Turned out she thought someone from the pub had chased her to help. They had not. No one had even called this in despite it happening in public in a busy pub in broad daylight. But either way, she was alive, safe, and her dickhead ex-BF was going back to prison. Copper finally uncuffed my dad and asked if he was really going to see his firstborn, and as his car was written off, they gave him a lift to hospital. To discover, Mom hadn't given birth yet. It was false labor. She had 2 weeks to go. But still, don't drive like an historian. Number 4. Competitive comparisons. This is what I call it when someone always has a response to what you are talking about that somehow always seems to one-up you. It doesn't matter what you are talking about. Somehow, they always have a better or worse story that puts yours aside. It's intended to invalidate what you are speaking about and remove the attention from you onto them. Pay close attention to people who practice this malicious style of conversation. You will be glad you made note of it, as usually this is not only selfish, but very narcissistic in nature. Number 3. My ex was insanely selfish. Her dad gave her a $20,000 a month allowance, plus paid for her mortgage on a penthouse in NYC while she went to Yale. He paid her car plus insurance. She had zero need for cash. All bills are paid. He also gave her a credit card with an assuming no limit. 'Cause we bought a car on a whim once. But I saw her steal $3 from a friend who was passed out. She'd steal panties from Walmart. She had a pile of cash in her bedroom. We once needed to pay for a delivery. I don't know if it was bagels or pizza, but she refused to touch the pile of cash. I had to walk to my car to get cash, and when I tipped her $10 for waiting, my ex went ballistic, calling me a bitch, a moron, and quitter. 'Cause why would you get a random porky bitch $10 for $5 worth of food? We went to a solid wedding. She found a way to take 4 gift baskets as opposed to the 2 we were supposed to get. Every guest got one. She also stole a $500 gift card to Victoria's Secret from the wedding. She's wicked greedy. Number 2. They respond how worse their situation is when you're sharing your problems with them. They try for help or listening, just trying to draw attention on their side. The complainers. I have a friend that is like that, and lately I have just been letting her talk, with dry responses such as, "Oh wow, tough luck. Yeah, you told me all of that," via text, and I would talk only if she would ask me a question. Well, the hangout got silent super fast, and it seems she is no longer satisfied sharing the details of her life with me. Number 1. Doesn't think they're wrong in the slightest bit. They can't shoulder any bit of responsibility. My former neighbors are bad alcoholics. Every night is a Friday night. Weekends are like New Year's. The police were constantly getting called to their house. Their kids not only destroyed their property but other people's as well. Their junk was always strewn all over multiple yards. Their landlord evicted them. My neighbor was pissed and fought hard in court to stay because they paid their rent via assistance. It was everyone else's fault but theirs. It was the landlord's fault for being biased against them. The neighbor's fault for complaining about their kids. Their parents' fault for not helping more. Everyone bears the blame but them. All I can say is it has been so peaceful since they've been gone. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your own story or thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.